Hey, fellow babies. The following program is going to contain some content that you may not like. It's the Pach-Attack. Deal with it. We have a question from @HaloKillzone23. That's a good mix. Halo Killzone. Will we ever see an Xbox portable? Why didn't Microsoft decide to make one since other two companies has it? I'm guessing Halo Killzone is not a native English speaker, just a shot. Okay, the answer is because the handheld market sucks. And to the extent that there is a handheld market, Nintendo owns it. I actually have been getting a lot of criticism lately for bashing poor Nintendo and not bashing great old Sony. The Vita's a joke. It's a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful piece of hardware, and nobody owns one. And the reason they don't own one is it's too good. It's like, it does too much. Developers aren't making games for it because the market's small. This is kind of the same question I answered about Ubisoft and not putting Rayman on the Wii U. You need a big install base before you get third-party developers embracing a platform. You're not going to get a big install base of the Vita at this price. And even though it's a really slick device, if there's not a lot of people who own it, you're not going to get a lot of software. And it's a vicious cycle. If you don't have software, you're not going to buy the Vita. If you don't have Vitas, you're not going to get software. So the Vita sucks. Sony has no prayer of making money on the Vita. At the PlayStation 4 press conference, they showed really cool interoperability between the Vita and the PS4. And the idea was, much the way the Wii U works with the gamepad, you can play your game session on the console, and if your wife comes in and says, sorry, Real Housewives of Beverly Hills on now, I gotta switch over and watch TV, you can walk out of the room with your Vita and keep playing. Of course, you could also just have another TV and tell your wife to watch in a different room. And in my case, the console's in a different room, so we don't have to trip over each other. That's a cool feature, but it's not enough to get you to run out and spend $250 and buy yourself a new handheld. The handheld market is just not as big as it used to be. With the 3DS, I think Nintendo's going to probably continue to do okay. 15 million a year, that's a nice market for handhelds. With the Vita in the market, they're going to have trouble selling 5 million a year. Why do we need a third? All that would happen is the demand of 20 million handhelds would get split 3 ways instead of 2 ways. Nobody makes money selling 5 million a year. So Microsoft is not dumb, they're not doing it. Second part to this answer, Microsoft is not in the games business to sell games. That isn't why they started this. Go back to 2000, I think, could have been 2001. Consumer Electronics Show, Bill Gates keynote. Bill Gates, in case you guys didn't know, founded Microsoft. And Bill Gates unveiled the Xbox. It was probably CES 2001. He unveiled the Xbox and he said, this box is going to be the entertainment hub in the living room. Now, Microsoft lost its way early on because they had a bunch of guys working on the box who were former game developers. You know all of them, Seamus Blackley and Kevin Backus and Ed Fries and Peter Moore was the president of the division for a while. Those guys were gamers all the way, and they chased games, and they made the Xbox into a hardcore game box. Then Don Matrick got there, and John Shaprick got there. Matrick is a game guy too, but Matrick went back to the roots, and they turned the Xbox into this multimedia device. Their initial vision was, we're going to make this thing the PC that's attached to your TV and allows you to do everything you do on a television, including play games. And that's the vision for the Xbox, has been since the beginning. They lost their way a little bit and actually chased games for a few years. They're swinging back. Kinect is not a game device. Kinect is a television guide controller. The voice command, Bing search, wave your hand and go through the program guide. Microsoft is focused on entertainment hub in the living room, not selling you a portable device. These fail. Rohan, this thing failed, remember? Okay, good. I think that's why we put that out there. And yes, I actually do have a Gizmondo, so anybody wants to buy it, let me know. I'll put it on eBay soon. All right, we have a question from the site, from Christian 90Z. Ha! Why does the game industry, more than any other industry, whine so much about used game sales? Okay, I'm gonna be funny here, Christian. I don't mean anything personal, but why would any other industry care about used game sales? So, like, people in the telephone industry shouldn't care about used game sales. You know, people in the retail clothing industry shouldn't care. I know what you mean. What you're really saying is, why do game people care about used product sales and nobody else cares? The reason is that consumer entertainment is an odd category in and of itself, and it's limited to music and movie, TV, so music and filmed entertainment, and then interactive game entertainment. I guess you could throw art in there or something, but it's pretty much limited to just a handful of industries. And of those, of movie, film, and music and games, the only one that actually has a vibrant used market is games. I think the reason for that is that the cost of all the other products, you know, to the consumer is relatively low. I mean, you can buy a song on iTunes for $1.29. An album costs something like 15 bucks or 12 bucks. I mean, you can get them, so you can get the entire collection. Movie DVDs are typically about 20 bucks. Games are 60. So the inherent value, you know, resale value in a game is higher because the cost of the game initially is so much. We didn't have a very vibrant used game market until this last decade. You know, GameStop pretty much pioneered it. Electronics Boutique emulated them. Game Group in the UK emulated them. And it grew into a pretty decent sized market. I don't think anybody really appreciates how the size of the used game market. Let's just look at GameStop numbers. GameStop sells about 80 million units of new software a year, and GameStop as a chain sells about 80 million units of used software a year. So the number of games sold by GameStop is about 50-50 new and used. GameStop has about 30% market share in the markets where it competes. So that kind of tells you about 30% of all games get traded in and resold. That's about the number. That's pretty meaningful. I mean, you know, if there is a used music market or a used movie market, it's probably low single digit, 1 or 2% of all sales. So it really doesn't impact new sales of the same commodity. With games, 30%, that's enough of an impact, I think, to get the people who make their living selling new items convinced that, you know, that might be costing us sales. I think you could transfer this to, say, the car industry, which is not entertainment, of course. And if you look at cars, pretty much 100% of cars sold are resold as used. I mean, hardly anybody buys a car new and drives it until it's no longer working and you have to scrap it. So just about every car ever sold gets resold as used. I think the new car industry accepts that, and they accept that a used car provides currency to a consumer to buy a new car. So it's always been that way, it's always been accepted. But in the entertainment software industry, which again is movies, television shows, music, and games, it's not been an issue for any other form of entertainment except games. I think that the developers and publishers are genuinely uninformed about the cannibalization. I think they whine about it, and I think the fix to make everybody happy would be just don't sell used games within 3 months of the launch of a new game. And I don't think anybody would ever have a problem with used games again. Because the only real cannibalization of sales occurs if you buy a new game for 60 bucks, Aliens, Colonial Marines, and you hate it after a day and you take it back to GameStop and trade it in for 20 or 30 bucks, and they have it for sale for 40 or 50 bucks right next to the new copy. Yeah, the used game costs the publisher a new game sale. They'll complain about that. You can eliminate that by just not selling used games for the first 3 months. And I think you can legally do that. I think that because the game publishers pay promotional allowances to the retailers, they give them what they call vendor allowance dollars to promote their product. They can say, if you accept our vendor allowance dollars as a condition of accepting our advertising, dollars, you will not sell a used copy of the game while we're paying you vendor allowance dollars. I think that would solve the problem. Everybody be happy. So great question. And again, sorry that I gave you a long-winded answer. Okay, fellow babies, thanks once again for joining us on this week's Pach-Attack. If you have questions, please direct them to the link below, or you can ask questions on Twitter. I am at Michael Pachter. If you'd like a direct message, follow me on Twitter. If you want a question answered on the show, send it to Michael Pachter and copy @Rohan Likes Pants, because Rohan, my producer, picks all the questions for the show. My wife's like, get some ties that aren't pink. I go, I love pink ties.
See all of our shows and game reviews now on the brand new GT app on Xbox Live, and the GT Originals iOS app too.
Clicking on the videos to the right of me. Wow.
And you can put like right here.
To the right? To my right? To that right?
There we go.
That right, yeah. Okay. Hey, fellow babies, you can check out more Pach-Attack videos on GameTrailers.com by clicking on the videos to the right of me. This is not a profit deal.